Elon Musk has officially killed Twitter. What do I mean by killed? Well, it's been a slow, steady, miserable, painful. Like the bird is on a sidewalk bleeding out. It's been this way for. It's like the little blue bird got hit by a
train
or a Kia Sedona or whatever.
Space rocket.
A soccer mom was rushing to get her kids to soccer practice, and she hit the bird.
Street, and one of Elon Musk's Teslas hit it.
There you go. Yeah, Tesla on autopilot hit it like it does children and other pedestrians. And so the bird has been bleeding out on the sidewalk for weeks now. But the reason we say he's officially killed it is, in fact, because it is officially no longer Twitter. It is something much dumber, just much worse in every way. It is simply called, like Elon's wives, X. Like every single one of his wives, X.
Yeah.
And like some of his children, I think, X.
Yeah.
And also like one of his Teslas, Model X, and also his space company, SpaceX. Wow, I'm sensing a theme here. Right. And the theme is an obsession with stupidity. And that stupidity is naming things the letter X. I think Elon is Gen X. And so I'm not
just
saying
too much X.
It's too much X. It's too much of it. And I'm not saying that he's directly doing it as an homage to being Gen X, but what I'm saying is that generation, like if you look at the app itself, initially the design, it had like a grunge, like it had those stupid like streaks on it to make it look grunge. The final one doesn't, it's cleaner looking. But this is the idea of what someone from Gen X, like 90s, thought was cool, like X. It's just that whole like Sirius XM, was it like that's when the XM brand launched as well, satellite radio. Like the idea of an X and it being outer spacey, and like this is a holdover from a guy who is among Gen X and is having a midlife crisis and is just obsessed
1,000%.
with an outdated concept of what's cool, what's new, what's hip. It's just embarrassing. And so this is where we're at. I'll tell you, on my end, I swiftly turned off auto updates. So on my phone, Twitter is alive, again, bleeding out, but nevertheless, still breathing. There's a little bird heartbeat, and it's very sad, and I'm mourning it every night, wondering when I'm truly going to lose my friend, because eventually he's going to cut off support for the old version. And there is some hope, however, in that if you're at least iPhone user, Meg, I know you have Android, so maybe you can figure it out on that side of the world.
Yeah.
On the iOS side of things, there is a built-in app called Shortcuts. And you can look this up. Maybe later on we can do a video, a tutorial or something. But other people have already. If you have the Shortcuts system app developed by Apple, you can actually create your own shortcut that launches Twitter. And when you create a shortcut on your phone, you can choose what the icon picture is, and you can name it. So people have started creating shortcuts. And so as far as the phone's concerned, it's a shortcut to open X, and the shortcut's name is Twitter, and the icon is the original Twitter app icon. And so it functions exactly the same. And that is the workaround people who sadly forgot to turn off auto updates or just didn't pursue that avenue. So we are in desperate times. And Meg, I don't know. Has it updated on your phone? Did it happen for you?
It did.
What are your
initial?
What'd you do?
So maybe we're gonna kind of get into the UFO thing later, and maybe it's because of that though. But I put like X and Threads next to each other, so it's X Threads, and I was like, oh, it kind of feels like X Files, I don't know. But I updated.
See the desperation. We're trying to make the most of it. We're being it's Stockholm syndrome, it's gaslighting, it's all sorts of manipulation that we're just trying to make the most of a bad situation, which is we live in a time in a world where a unstable billionaire can have a midlife crisis and take it out on the rest of the world by stumbling his way into accidentally buying, in my opinion, what was the best social media app. None of them are good. None of them are great. None of them are super healthy, but it was my favorite, and it was a lot of people's favorites, and it was the app you went to see what exactly was going on in the world day to day. Like there's nothing like it really. And now it is just a sad, desperate situation. So, Meg, you just mentioned Threads.
Yes.
I think the question a lot of us are asking right now is what's next? Is if it's officially killed, which it looks like this is truly like the final hour of whatever's left of what used to be Twitter and is now a miserable thing called X. What is the future? Has the app that is going to replace Twitter even been released? Is it Threads? Is it Blue Sky? Is it none of those? Is it something that hasn't been invented yet? I myself am on Blue Sky, and I've spent a little bit of time over the past, I think, month maybe or so. It might have been longer actually now. Meg, I know you are on both. You're on Blue Sky and you created a Threads, which I have not done yet. So I'm curious, what are your initial thoughts on Threads? Is it the Twitter replacement? Is it something else entirely? Does it even have a future? I was reading that participation on it has already declined by like 70% or something.
Yeah,
a lot of people complaining about the algorithm, Meta's algorithm, Facebook's algorithm, Meta, whatever you want to call it, that silly company, is like, it's real pushy with like sponsored and influencers. And so what has been your initial experience with Threads?
With Threads, so the first day I think it was super exciting. I think that was July 7th. Everyone was like, oh yeah, Threads made all of their things, that was great. And I think now it's declined 70%, like you mentioned, and I don't know why exactly. Maybe it's just because like it's tied to your Instagram account and you can't automatically follow the people you're following on Instagram. And then I remember seeing somebody kind of point out like the people that you follow on Instagram aren't necessarily the same people you want to follow on Threads. So that could be one reason that might have been a bad call. But the other thing that I noticed is that it doesn't have a really good user interface. And I think that like with Meta having so much money as it does, they would actually like improve that a lot more. And I think that could be turning right. I mean,
now
how
you and
much
I
money
both
do
know.
they have?
You and I both know we use Facebook every day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We know damn well.
I could tell. So like I don't know who I need to talk to, but I could tell them exactly all of the problems on all of their apps. Being like, this is like shit. You need to change this because
it is embarrassing. Some
like
of the
okay,
things.
On Threads, they don't have hashtags as far as I know. They don't have the ability to search for terms. Last time I checked, so that's automatically limiting you greatly to only the people that you have on Instagram, essentially, or people that you're like, hey, I do want to kind of follow these. Now, say that like you made Threads, I interact with your Threads. They might show up in other people's feeds. More so probably if they retweet it rather than just like it. But,
Retweet.
It's very secluded in that sense where it's like you can't search like, I don't know, Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever and just like find those fans, right? Those people you want to connect with and like those communities. So I think that that's something that's holding Threads back, and that's something that should definitely be fixed. And then with Blue Sky, you mentioned that I'm on that as well, and I think that you're more active on that. But I think that that's really a good app. But I think kind of when Threads came out, it kind of pulled the rug out from under Blue Sky in some ways, right?
Well, the thing about it is Blue Sky is still invite only, and we'll talk about that in a second because I kind of want to devote a couple minutes to just telling people that situation. But with Threads, you're right. Threads immediately went public. It just like they slapped it together really quickly. They tied it to your Instagram account, and so you have to have an Instagram account in order to have a Threads account. So in that way, it's kind of like how Apple Watches pair with a phone, although I guess that's a bad analogy now because they are separate things. You can have the watch, and it's not. But when the Apple Watch first came out, it was like it could only exist as a companion to your phone. It was a glorified accessory, rather than its own standalone device. And that's kind of what Threads is it's more of an accessory to Instagram. It's like this little outfit Instagram put on, and it's like Instagram dressed up as Twitter for Halloween very badly on a budget, like a mom that didn't really love it, and it's just like, here's a pillowcase, you're a ghost.
Oh God.
That's my analogy for what Threads did to it, and what Meta did to try to counteract.
They should put like another week of thought and application.
At least that would have doubled the amount of thought that went into it. But
it could have been so much better. I mean, I have hope, but like still,
the
kind
thing
of
of
like
it is, regardless of design or function
Yeah.
or any of that, even if they made a great, well-designed, whatever, there is no world where Facebook's leadership can create something that replaces Twitter, because one of the key foundational things of Twitter is it has a lot more liberty with what you're allowed to say, with what you're allowed to post. There's uncensored adult content on it, and speech-wise, I mean, we all, if you spend any amount of time on Instagram or Facebook, you know how absurd and ridiculous what they call their community standards system is. You know how dysfunctional, it's all automated, it's miserable, and so, you know, you could jokingly say to a friend, "Oh my God, I would kill somebody for that outfit." And then Facebook's moderator will go, "You just threatened to murder somebody, and we're
Yeah, right.
sentencing you to prison, and we're taking you off to like Mark Zuckerberg's gulag, and they take you right back, and they shoot you for saying common English phrases, because that's how dumb the
Yeah.
automated censorship." And no app that engages in things like that is ever going to replace Twitter, because Twitter, not only will Twitter not censor you for saying something as innocuous as "I would kill to have that outfit," half the time it doesn't even catch you if you say you're actually going to kill for real, kill somebody, unless somebody reports you directly. There's not a lot of automated censorship, and what we have learned, I think, over the past 5 years is automating censorship on social platforms is a bad way to do it, and you really should rely
Yeah.
on the community. That's what these apps, as much as these idiots like Spez over on Reddit, or Mark over at Facebook, or even Elon over at Twitter, as much as these dumb tech douchebags refuse to admit it, the people, the community, are what makes these apps what they are.
Yeah.
We know what it should be. We know what it shouldn't be. And at the end of the day, we decide. We decide if these apps are sink or swim.